Welcome back to another episode of the Pop Culture Abstract Podcast. This is Jay, and this week I sat down with writer Baker Andrews and illustrator Sean Long. We talked about their upcoming book, Where a Booger Goes. It's a children's book explaining the proper way to handle, I guess, when your nose is full. It's a good educational book. They talk a little bit about the process of making the book, how they met each other, and their backgrounds, and then what they're planning on doing next. How did you get into writing children's books?
I was working as teacher's assistant for the special school district, and I was working at a regular elementary in Kirkwood. And one day I walked in, and one of my students had both of her fingers jammed up her nose, and she was just digging away, and it was amazing to watch how unabashed she was. And I said, "Little girl, what are you doing?" She goes, "I'm eating my boogers." Like I was a jerk for asking. And so I thought to myself, this is not right. And a lot of the kids that I worked with were kindergartners, and I can tell you that kindergartners, like, they just don't know. So they don't know to blow their nose, and they don't know not to wipe things that come out of their body on stuff that other people touch. And so I decided to write a children's book called Where a Booger Goes. And I sat down Christmas Day of 2014 and pounded out the first draft. And I spent 2 years deciding whether or not I was going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And then about a year ago, I decided I was going to make the push and I was going to publish it. And I'm too impatient to submit it to publishers. In fact, most publishers aren't even accepting submissions. So I was fortunate enough that I was able to start a publishing company and actually produce the book, bring on talented people like Sean Long, and other people who helped edit it, and then I learned to market it, and before I knew it, I'm now in the business of selling children's books.
Interesting. So, what has the response been to the book so far?
Very positive. I put a contest or a giveaway on Facebook, and I posted it on teacher sites because I knew that teachers, especially kindergarten teachers and preschool teachers, would understand that there's a real teaching value to teaching kids where their boogers should go. So I posted a giveaway on teacher Facebook pages, and my best hope was that maybe 15 or 20 teachers would respond. And in less than an hour, I had over 300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to shut it down. And I got so many messages from teachers, especially, again, kindergarten teachers, that said things like, "This is a great idea. Thank you for sharing your boogers. My classroom can definitely use this." And so I've only had one negative comment on Facebook so far, and one, I guess, elderly lady without a sense of humor.
I cheered it. I thought it was
Yeah,
awesome.
said something like, "This is both stupid and disgusting."
And I think that should actually go on on this website as under the reviews.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But in general, it's been really positive, especially since, for the most part, very few people have read the book. It hasn't come out yet, and children's books, it's out on Kindle, but children's books aren't really meant for digital reading. It's not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I read it, and yeah, it was a little hard to tell the order of reading it because it was all, each like splash was one page.
Right.
Yeah, that's not how we designed it.
No.
By any means. So.
No, and I was really fortunate to bring on Sean Long, and it turned out like I think it turned out really well. I say that, but I haven't actually seen a copy of the book yet. So my best guess is that I'm hopeful it turned out well.
Yeah.
I know that one thing I did in producing it is when I was working with the printer, I told them that I wanted the quality of the book to be one step above what's on the market.
Yeah.
The paper is a heavier weight. It's a nicer quality. It comes with a dust jacket. In general, I think that if people just pick it up and physically touch it, my hope is that the quality of the book itself will lend itself to sales.
Yeah.
Especially since it's at the same price point as other children's picture books.
Yeah. So I know you didn't really have a background in writing coming into this. So what was your background originally?
Originally, my background is in tax law. I have a law degree from the University of Missouri, and I have a Master's of Business Taxation from the Carlson School of Management, which in no way lends itself to children's books, but it does lend itself to writing because both educational pursuits were very writing intensive.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a completely different style of writing, but through the process of earning those degrees, I guess you could say I learned how to write and how to be persistent and how to stay with it and how to edit.
Yeah. You didn't do much rhyming though.
I did not. I prepared no legal briefs in rhyming iambic pentameter. Although in law school, I signed everything as my fictional attorney's office was Crazy Andy's House of Justice. And my TA, my law school writing TA from University of Missouri, I actually ran into him in Minnesota when I sat to take the bar in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I didn't recognize him. I had no idea who he was. But he came up to me and said, "Hey, did you come up with Crazy Andy's House of Justice?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, I did." So with those 2 degrees, I spent 15 years as a consultant in accounting and finance. I just went to the special school district because I wanted a break. I wanted to go on sabbatical. I wanted to do something that felt more meaningful.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really rewarding job. And I liked working with kids. And I relate to kids much better than I do like real people.
Yeah.
And so I decided that maybe this is a domain that I can operate in effectively.
That's awesome. So how did you meet Sean?
So, funny story. When I was still with the special school district, I had written the book, but I had no art for it. And I wanted to see how much art I could produce. So I took a class at Merrimack Community College, and it just happened that Sean Long was the instructor. And the class was only 4 sessions. I think how long are they? 2 hours each?
3.
3? But I can tell you that, in those 12 hours working with Sean, the book really advanced, and it was really Sean's class that gave me the confidence to pursue it, because Sean was really enthusiastic about it. And like, Sean knows real authors and real artists, and for him to show genuine enthusiasm really motivated me. And also, we advanced the graphic layout of the book in that class far more than I thought possible. It wasn't until I hired a marketing manager, Brian Dooley, to sort of bring this project, to bring it home. And originally I asked Brian if he wanted to illustrate it. He said, "No, I don't think I'm your person, but I know this guy, his name is Sean Long. He's a great illustrator." And at that point I said to myself, you know what? Sean Long is probably the illustrator for this.
Yeah. So Sean, how did you get into illustrating?
In general,
Yeah.
I just have drawn ever since I was, I can remember getting in trouble in preschool because I didn't go outside to play. I was sitting there drawing at the tables. For some reason, I remember that. And ever since then, it's just gotten out of control. That's basically what it's done. But yeah, no, I've just always illustrated. I've always illustrated cartoons, basic illustration. I like to call myself an illustrator because it's more wide. Like if you say you're a cartoonist, it's like saying you're a clown. But if you say I'm a physical actor, So, but yeah, so but let me add into that story. I love this about the class. The very first class that Andrew was in, it was hilarious. You were there for 2 hours out of the 3, I think. And he walks up to me. And as you can tell, he's very, kind of has a deadpan, just matter-of-factness about him. And in the same cadence that he's talking here, he walks up to me and says, "Hey, I really enjoyed this, but I'm going to have to leave. I think one of my students broke my nose earlier today, and I'm sort of tasting blood because I've had my nose broken before, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here." And I'm just sitting there open mouth gapped yeah, that's no, you need to tough it out through this children's book class with your broken nose. No, it was just, and I've told that story over and over, man. I've told that story. There's very few stories in those classes. But his book, I've taught that class probably now for 4, maybe 5 years. And you get a lot of passionate people in there. And passion, though, is wonderful, but if the idea doesn't have legs to it, it's hard to get energized about it. And he was one of the very few that, if I'm lucky, every once a year, I'll have one person in there that has an idea that actually has merit, that literally sounds original. And his was just really clever. And I think one of the things, too, is in the class, we, I begrudgingly to everybody, I make everybody present. At the beginning of class, I want them to present the newest work. I want them to basically reintroduce us to it, because you're essentially selling yourself. And, because everybody comes to a children's book illustration class with a hidden agenda. They all have an idea.
Yeah.
So it's okay, obviously you're then wanting your product to get to the public. So here's your peers. Go ahead and sell the sizzle on it. And I think that really helped too, because I remember, and I probably was I wasn't too criticizing. I think I was just more excited and more just, because I immediately, with those things, I see how the thing could be drawn, in my head, and it was cool. It was really cool. That was really that story though, how we reconnected I think that's really neat.
Yeah. So what do you model your style after?
It depends what the project is. For this project, it's the idea of just using the word booger to describe these illustrations is what makes it gross. If I have all these little characters drawn out and I just show them as little blob characters, but I don't tell you what they are, it doesn't mean anything. But once I say they're boogers, then it becomes gross. So it kind of sells itself like that. So I just needed these characters to be almost like you forget that they're boogers, but the idea that they have their own little world. And I'm very big about, I want each individual character to actually feel like they kind of exist, that they're not just like deadpan little things that are, you have,
You don't want them to be props.
Yeah, I don't want them to be props. I want the kids to be props instead,
Right.
And in the book, and hopefully by the time this, we made all the backgrounds, which are essentially the kids or the Bannisters or wherever these guys are being wiped on, we made them white and didn't color them in. And I like that a lot, because I still think it really takes away the gross factor to a degree. Like, we could have made it really disgusting, and it would have been, yuck, yuck, yuck. But I think it makes it more like we were able to, like, I guess, put like an artist's spin on the booger thing.
Yeah, in the class, Sean made a really good point that, like boogers themselves are inherently gross, and so the critical element was to make them boogers and identify, something that you would identify as a booger, but to also be cute, not to go over the top on the gross factor. One of the first people who designed a booger actually wasn't Sean. It was my uncle Victor in Boston. He's a graphic artist, and he produced a bunch of really good, booger characters.
I've never seen any of these. I'd love to see those original sketches.
Yeah, I'll show them to you.
I've never seen them.
And the problem was that they were just too gross. And the fact that they were so gross took away from the content and the message. Looking at the images, all you could see is, wow, that's a really gross-looking booger person. And Sean...
Well, my first ones I did for you, they were pretty gross.
They were.
There was the first one where I did it like a mock-up where I had them hanging off a chair or whatever, and they were much more creature-like. They weren't they didn't have human traits, is that?
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. But yeah, and the other thing, I think part of what I always talk about is you want to make something to be quote unquote toyetic. So you want it to be able to be made into, dolls, or you want the characters to resonate and stuff. So, and I'm really, I tried to push to make some of them consistent in it. So like little guys that continuously show up, or little gals, guys and gals, continuously show up through the book. They're the same booger.
Yeah. So we're going to see little booger action figures at some point?
From your mouth to God's ears.
Well, funny story. I've actually looked into that. So there are those stress balls that you can that you squeeze on. There is a company that you can send them like CAD drawings of what you want them to make, and they'll make it. And at some point, I'd like to do this if this really takes off. The problem is that you have to manufacture them in quantity. They have to physically make a mold for them. And so the minimum order was like 10,000 units at like, I forget how much each individual one costs, but the cost of producing those right now would exceed the cost of the books. So it's definitely something like on the back burner, and we definitely have the art and the characters to do it. We just need to see the demand to justify the outlay.
That'd be interesting.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So I know you've got a lot of other books lined up now that you're going to work on next. Are you guys going to work on them together, and what are they?
Yes, we are going to work on them together. So I am actually having a contest through my website to determine which books get produce next. And I'll probably start this contest January 2018. But basically, I'm going to ask my readers to write in on the contest page of my website which book they want to see produced and why. And people are going to vote essentially.
Yeah.
And based on that, I have the book itself lists, I think, 6 or 7 works that are in production, and these are things that I'm ready to hand over to Sean once I decide that's the book to go with.
Yeah.
So, of course, I've got a book about my dog Lola, and the first she's got. Well, I should back up. So the books are the entire collection is operates under multiple brands. So there's one brand, the Little Books of Big Business Concepts. And what these do is take case studies in management that I learned in business school and turns them into allegories that children can understand. And it sort of exposes them to high-level business concepts at an early age in a fun, readable format that they can easily understand.
Yeah.
So one book is grandfather cake.
Yeah.
There's a family recipe, baker's family recipe, and the first thing you do is you take out 4 eggs, and then the second thing you do is you throw 2 eggs out the window. And so, little baker says, why do we do that? And so the book is sort of an odyssey of tracing back the origins of the family recipe as to find out why they do that.
Yeah.
And once they find out the answer, they realize the reason they were throwing 2 eggs out the window when great-great-grandfather was making it has nothing to do with little baker's current situation. And so it's the idea that, well, we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way. And they do up until little baker says why. And so it's a case study in why did this strange business practice come into place and why do people continue to do it?
Yeah.
So that's one brand. Another brand is the Backyard Barnyard Farm. I had 5 chickens. They're all dead now.
Yeah.
Or presumed dead. They're all actually just missing.
Yeah.
I should, but there's one book. I'd like to title it "You Can't Kill the Rooster," and I would actually like to do a promotion in conjunction with Paul Sedaris. Who is Paul Sedaris?
Yeah.
He's David Sedaris' brother. Do you read David Sedaris?
No.
So.
And Amy Sedaris.
Right.
Yeah.
So Paul Sedaris, known as the Rooster in David Sedaris' writing, apparently sells barbecue sauce called "You Can't Kill the Rooster," and it just so happens that I had written a story about a rooster who can talk.
Yeah.
And because he can talk, it was originally titled "The Magical Power of Good Morning."
Yeah.
And the rooster just says good morning to the farmer, and then the farmer pardons the chickens. But for branding purposes, I'd really like to make it "You Can't Kill the Rooster" and tie it in with Paul Sedaris' barbecue sauce.
If you want to give us your social media website,
Sure.
where people can find the book.
Sure. You can find the book at bakerandrews.com. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available on my website. And if you use the code BoogerShip, you get free shipping, which you don't get on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to drive sales through the website.
Okay. Awesome. Sean, you got a website you want to?
Yeah,
Portfolio or something?
SeanLongIllustrator.com. It will take you to essentially my Facebook page, but I have like so much artwork there. It's like it gives you an idea of what I'm about and what I'm doing currently and stuff like that. So there's a lot of fun stuff to see there.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for taking time and talking with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Please go to popcultureabstract.com to check out my writing, the social media links, and links to Google Play and iTunes so you can subscribe to the show and rate and review us. A few other links to check out: ijov.net, the Inside Joke Outside Voice Podcast Network. You'll find other great podcasts there. Also check out Podcast Land. They do a monthly voting for Podcast of the Month, and you can search for Pop Culture Abstract there and vote for it. You get 5 votes a month. The intro music was Social Damage by the band The Euclids. This week's featured song is Saint Anthony for the Lost Turn Up by Jus Time.
Yeah, yeah, turn up, yeah, turn up. Too lit for my blood, too rich, not quite enough. I'm too raw like tuna fish on a toothpick, caviar for lunch. Y'all don't have to be bad and a bougie. Match is not mattering to me. Don't need no stands or no groupie, just fans I had truly. Got love for my story, not Brandon or Gucci. Support my lifestyle, not taking lightly or loosely. Right now, need an ambulance, got the wires and the tubing. In the land of stabbing and shooting, psychos manic and moody. Grabbing the Uzi, strap for the cash and food. Pants is sagging off booty, going commando the movie. Saint Anthony, look around. They are so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, take a look around. These youngins so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, look around. They are so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, take a look around. These youngins so lost and they can't be found. Call Saint Tony, they will turn out. For one day, but things will turn out. Writing with this light and scorched earth, journal of the Zeus. Outrank your alt facts, kernel of truth. I church from something funky like worshiping them pews. You and this do not mix like furniture and shoes. Track stars and 2 guards, jumping hurdles in these hoops. Get a free ride but didn't learn this shit in school. Just lie where you are, so much further from the truth. Harder way to Lincoln, Pennywise or murder booze. Name got an evil ring to it, got that it factor pen like Stephen King, clowning kid actors, wreaking havoc. I don't even wonder. Creatures of his habit, and I got the creature comforts. Colts and eagles and them llamas pop. Right tools, wrong moves, ain't climbing to the mountaintop. Had to fall back, ain't feeding on a pile of slop. Having fun, I'm smashing clubs like Gatling gun. Around the shots. Good Saint Anthony, look around. They are so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, take a look around. These youngins so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, look around. They are so lost and they can't be found. Good Saint Anthony, take a look around. These youngins so lost and they can't be found. Already lost. They think they already lost. They think they already lost. They think they already lost, but the game just started.